You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Football Stadium Prince. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped!
Yes!
And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is
goal! Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. Then it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. It's Hutton now on the offense with the left foot.
Goal!
It is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
Summer soccer is exiting stage left, and we are here to give it a standing ovation. This is The People's Pitch, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City SC. As always, I am Nate, joined by my best soccer buddy, John Bisworm. John, calendar is looking a little empty, man. How weird is that?
You know, it's a little weird, but, you know, we're not in postseason soccer for the first time in a while, and It kind of feels like, you know, when a tree falls in the forest. Does anyone really hear it? You know, the playoffs are going on right now, and not a lot of hubbub around the playoffs. At least around this neck of the woods.
Zero hubbub.
Yeah, and it's like posts go out from clubs that are participating, and you know, 30 people like it. So who knows, man? Who knows? But we got lots of good news this week. 3 wins to close out the season, so we'll cover off those games, plus add some season-ending thoughts on NPSL and USL too. We're going to cover off the Goats and Crows Derby. The what is call it, the Nature's Derby. The Goats and Crows played, and the Crows did not disappoint. Then, as far as NPSL, kind of keeping that ball rolling, the veterans went up to Harris. We say veterans, yet young Johnny Bear from the Futures was the only substitute in that one. But the veterans took care of Harris. Meanwhile, the USL2 team took care of business at home to earn their first ever 3 points. But first, Nate, did you watch the Minnesota United versus Everton friendly?
Yeah, I caught a little bit of it on the ESPN Plus. A couple of highlights for me. It was awesome to see Emmanuel Iwe coming on the field. That was really cool. And he held his own against Everton, which is amazing. I also loved seeing Dele Alli's slow realization throughout the game that he is on a sinking ship.
Yep, should have taken that bid to United 2 years ago, pal.
Yep. But I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this, John, because you were in the building.
Yeah, so I took Gus, and first off, I asked the right questions to you and to other folks that go often to United. I actually have never gone to a United game at Allianz. I've been to Allianz, just been giving my money to the U.S. Soccer Federation and not, the Maguires of the world. But anyways, that aside, it was super awesome. Got there, parked, walked in, went to the beer hall. I didn't know the beer hall was as small as it is.
Oh, yeah.
I had never been in there. So we ended up figuring out that you have to download some stupid Minnesota United app to order your food, which took me forever to figure out how to do because their internet sucked. And anyways, got some food, tasted okay, got a beer. Gus got a root beer. Like, I looked over, it was gone. Not great for the monitoring of the sugar intake before the game even started, but we had a good time. As far as the game goes, let me just throw this shot across the bow. People need to pump the fucking brakes on this one. Early preseason for Everton, clearly adjusting to a system and style of play that I saw that was different than what they played last year in the the short window I was able to see them on television because they were losing every game. And they're playing a different style. You can tell there's kind of the old guard that's playing a little bit the way they were, and then there's the younger new guard, some new signings that are playing the new way that Fat Frank wants them to play. And it was just like from the first 5 minutes, I could tell I was like, Everton's gonna lose because they looked slow, out of shape, playing disjointed. They had a couple guys in some interesting positions. Their defense was apprehensive to play out of the back. Everything was kind of going long. Every chance of substance they had within the first 5 minutes to 8 minutes of the game was far better build up than what United brought. But what United brought was guys who are like past the mid-season point in their actual season who are super fit. Mm-hmm. And that's a recipe for disaster. It's like putting the tin foil in the bottle of Drano and throwing it in someone's mailbox. Dude, it was just a powder keg waiting to go off. And I don't think it was a case that United actually was the better team, to be honest. They just played with more energy. And where have we seen that, Nate? We've seen that multiple times where throughout our summer where teams that have better talent just don't get the W and look like they're underperforming because the other team has more energy. They've picked out the weak spots that maybe a team is working on, whether it be formation or personnel. And next thing you know, it's a goal fest. Then this will be my last point, pumping the brakes again. The first 3 goals were fucking garbage. A penalty, which Reynoso did a really good job of drawing the handball against the defender. He turned the guy inside out, nicked the ball off the guy's hand. You could see him setting it up the whole time. Second one, own goal. Third one, of like a dink rebound in that like Pickford makes an unbelievable save. We were sitting kind of over by that goal, so I got a good chance to see all 3 goals. Pickford, I have not seen a save like that. It was a world-class save. Going against the grain, stopping it, and then his defense just watched 5 United players kind of stroll in. Amaria getting in first to the crime scene and just toe poking it from 3 yards away in the goal. Then those are the first 3 goals. Then the second half comes, subs come in. You can tell that Fat Frank just emptied his bench, as did Heath. But the energy level was even higher because you're talking about young, unproven players who are like, dude, I'm playing against a Premier League team. I'm going to show out so that when we play against DC again and they suck, maybe I get a starting spot. So the young guys came in, played really well. I thought they connected well together, better so than the starters did. As a unit, I think the starters were a little more dangerous getting forward. But then like Dunlandi scores like a flick in off of a cross where it was like an impossible angle and the goalkeeper didn't even have a chance at trying to make a save. So those are your 4 goals. And I was like, as soon as the 4th one went in, I was like, all right, Gus, we're done. We're going to head home. And, I mean, it was what it was, but the we're world beaters message that's kind of floating online right now, I don't think it's warranted. I think that I don't even think that United's that good of an MLS team. They've been riding the back of a really hot Reynoso right now. Yep. And when did we see that last time? When Darwin got real hot and they made the playoffs after a terrible season. So it's the same script again that we've seen elsewhere. Now Reynoso picks up that injury in the game on a stupid challenge that was his own fault. And he never should have been sliding in for that ball, rolls his ankle, and then has to come out right before the All-Star game, right before, the midway point. And if they don't have him to rely on, they're in some deep shit, to be honest with you, as a team. But those are my takes. That was what I picked up out of it.
I'd agree with you that, it just felt like United was buzzing a little bit more around the pitch than Everton was, and that led to some mistakes, the handball, the own goal, things like that put the game kind of out of their reach. And by the time we scored that 4th one, like, that was what I was saying, is like those guys gave no shits about being out there anymore, and it was time for our young guys to prove.
The second goal, Nate. After the second goal, they were like,
right?
Like, fuck this place. Let's get out of here.
So, but I think the other point that you made is important too, that all those young guys that came on in the second half, they hopefully the team can see it as this and use them in this way, but they were proving their case to be added to the depth chart, because depth on this United team is something that has been a concern for a couple of weeks now. You notice this as we're trotting out literally the same starting lineup every single game for more than a month. And that's kind of the recipe for disaster. As we lose Will Trapp, We potentially lose Reynoso for a couple games.
Arriaga's been non-existent.
Right. So, like, I don't know what's going on with him if he's hurt, but, like, we just lost Will Trapp last against DC. Like you said, Reynoso tweaked his ankle. Hopefully it's nothing major. But, it's the time for guys like, Emmanuel Iwe to step up and show that they can contribute and make a case for themselves to be on that bench and actually used in game, which is another whole other Heath issue that I've got. Yeah. But I think that all in all, fun to watch, but nothing there for me that shows that United is anything more than we've seen, which is probably a playoff team this year, and hopefully
everyone makes the playoff.
Yeah, hopefully can scrap for a couple of games and advance a little farther than usual. It could be cool. Really, I think that the test for United is coming up here in August and September, especially when my best friend Gareth Bale comes to town.
They actually start playing. We talked about this months ago. It's like the three game stretch where they it's masking how actually dysfunctional everything is. Mm-hmm. Where you get two of the three worst teams in the league. You get a result on the road against a decent squad that's about your same level, maybe a little bit higher than you. And everyone's like, "Here we go, power rankings, we're back," and you're like, "Actually, you're not." And I heard a lot of people saying this thing that you talked about, like, why are we trotting out our starting lineup against these guys? And it's like, it's because there's no one else.
No, yep.
Like, you can't start a game like that because it can go the other way real fast and you're down 4-0, and then everyone starts leaving the turnstiles early, and because if you trot out the guys that came out in the second half, even though they're trying to prove themselves, they were not as good of soccer players as even the youngsters for Everton that came in. The youngsters for Everton that came in were just like, well, we're already down 3-0, so might as well just kind of have fun. And you could see too many touches. But it was good to see Emmanuel Iwe get in. I mean, what a night and day from, like, almost, statistically a calendar year previously. He was playing against Lacrosse Eris,
yeah.
And now he's playing against Everton. So that was kind of cool. It was funny. Gus was like, "Hey, Dad, do you know any of these guys?" I'm like, "Well, I know that guy who just came in. Like, let's see what he can do." But yeah, I mean, overall, it's cool to see. I mean, I didn't know there were so many Everton fans in Minnesota, for one. It was cool to see, these type of friendlies. But, like, I think if I'm a European squad, I might dip over to Asia. I might, do that type of preseason. But if I'm like a top English squad, or one that historically is at the top half of the heap in the Premier League, I'm going over to Portugal. I'm going to Spain. I'm playing against other teams or I'm going to the US and I'm playing another team from a league that's on summer break.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the MLS thing again. And you can tell too by the teams that played against the MLS All-Stars. They were like, "Fuck this. We're never doing this again." My guys are getting whacked by a bunch of players who are buzzing around the field, and we literally started kicking the ball 2 weeks ago. It's like, and they're sullying their brand by getting nicked by teams that are fit. So yeah, it's a wonder why Liga MX and MLS All Stars are playing at the same against each other now for the second year.
Yeah, no one else will.
Yeah, and also, last point: why the hell do we even have an All-Star game for the MLS? But anyways, enough about that stuff. Let's talk about Minneapolis City.
Yeah. This season was a journey, to say the least, and the member board knows you have thoughts and reactions to the changes at the club. Those at the member board want to represent you, and so they want to hear from you about what you want to see out of this club in the future. The best way they know how to do that is to meet up at Murphy Square Park over some beers and a hot grill. So the member board is going to host a post-season conversation with all members available. Details are Wednesday, August 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Brats are going to be on the grill. Bring your own beverage. Bring your own alternative food option of choice. One more time, that's Wednesday, August 3rd, 6:30 p.m. Meet up with the member board and let your voice be heard.
So this was a game that I circled on the calendar, Nate, the redemption game.
Yeah.
Joy Athletic coming in as they did last year at the end of the season, last home game of the year, rained on our trophy parade that we had last summer, last game of the season, on the backs of both the Browns and the aforementioned Emmanuel Eway. But this year, with all the issues we had, the head-scratching losses, all that stuff, there are 2 games I feel are must-wins in the NPSL North. No disrespect. Congratulations to Med City. You finally put it together. It's about damn time. But congratulations. But Duluth at home and Joy at home are the absolute 2 that you don't lose, in my opinion. And after taking care of the first guys and essentially ending their ability to win the league that early, when I went back and looked at the standings before the show, that loss to us and then the subsequent draw to Med City, that was where the league was won right there.
Yeah, and then it was just the nail in the coffin when they lost to Dakota.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So that was the loss. It started the downfall of Duluth. Anyways, congratulations to Med City on winning your first title. Anyways, so we took care of the first group, and then we took care of the second group, essentially, on that day.
Yeah, and I think that when you talk about a redemption game, this one had a little bit different feel because it also was about the redemption of a season, right? Like we needed some victories down the stretch so that the fans could feel good about going into the off season and feel good about the future. And as the last NPSL home game, like we needed to go out with a bang and
big crowd,
yeah,
in-town rival, all the fanfare around it. Like we really did need it. But
bang, we did, John.
Yeah, but as far as the game goes, it was about as downhill of an affair for City as it could be. I think there were a few minor blips in the radar that allowed Joy to peek through the window, but never really allowed them to open it up. There was the red card, which was a stupid red card and seems to be the running theme with what we've seen out of Joy this year. When frustration hits the fan, players get sent off, staff gets sent off. Really unfortunate that happened. I forget the name of the player who got the red card, but like just screaming at the female official in her face, and no one from Joy Athletic getting in the way to stop that from happening, just kind of shows how disjointed maybe the team is, that like they're not really all together perhaps. But with all that said, I think that Joy had a rough go of things this season. It was another year of learning for them. We know that you cannot win with all young players in the NPSL North, plain and simple. You can also not win if your veterans don't show up consistently. You need the perfect mix or balance of both of those. And they never really had that, especially this match included. I know they were missing quite a few players, but goals come from City Danger Man. Loic Musanvi seems to score every week, thank God. And then Matt Murakami paced the Crows. And that was all we needed.
Thank God. That was perfect. Yeah, I want to go back to that red card, John, because talk about eliminating your ability to get back into this game. I think I rewatched it today to get ready for the podcast just so we could talk about it a little bit. And there were a couple times, especially early, when when Zinedine Croton was completely unmarked on the right side. I mean, there was a couple remember that one time when it was early in the first half, he almost beat Bloom, but Bloom recovered. And then minutes later, he was all alone. And all it took was one player to switch the field a little earlier, and he would have been 1-on-1 against Troy. But instead the ball came late, and it was off target, and Troy was able to just gather it up in the box. But I think Joy had the ability to be dangerous. There's also kind of a semi-controversial non-call in the box against that did not go Joy's way, where they were hoping for a penalty early. So they were generally occasionally threatening, but I think that you're right that like talk about taking yourself out of the game. I think rewatching those couple of fouls on, it was Jacob Morlock, their left back, right? First instance, his yellow card came after the ref called a foul, and she was not prepared to pull out the cheddar at all. But he turned around and got immediately physical with her. Right. Yeah. Like turns around, chest bumps her, got right up in her face, and she was shorter than him. He's a tall kid. So, I mean, right away, stupid. Like she almost went to her back pocket for that, but she decided first call. Early, yeah. Yep, it's early. I'll call the yellow. And I just cannot believe that again in the game, the same guy decides that he wants to put hands on the referee for a second time when a call doesn't go his way.
Well, like shoving a player right in front of the ref. Right. I mean, yeah, he was retaliating the fact that Louis kind of gave him the business a little bit, but like, you gotta be smarter, man. Like, I mean, like in my playing days, I've like made a living off of being on a yellow card and figuring out how to like still play physical, still let the ref know that like you're not a wild person, but you're still going to go into tackles hard because you have to in order to not get hurt. Just don't make it malicious, but you never try to show up the referee or push a guy off the ball when you're on a yellow. It's just like you don't do it. To go back to like just the disjointedness I saw again, and you mentioned something like a typical player who plays with passion and fire is Zinedine Crichton. Like he's a very good player. Mm-hmm. He plays with an era of confidence, and he gets stuck in and works hard. Even on the day, I didn't think he looked like he wanted to be there. Like it was just like we got to finish out the season kind of thing. Yeah. And that to me was a little bit disappointing because I do like watching him play because of how good of a player he is. It's just that it didn't look like he even cared to be there as well. And everything went wrong for Joy. Everything went right for City. 2-0 to the good. We got out of there. Handshakes and high fives for everyone. And we finished a respectable mid-table based off of all the stuff that we were learning and going through the summer. So standout performers for me, I point to one person. It's Aiden Kavanaugh. I think he played he had been the standout performer the past 3 games for the NPSL squad. And I thought also whenever he was included into the USL squad as well, he played great and did exactly what we needed to do. I think he flipped the switch like mid-season. Like he got comfortable with the group and then started showing out what he can do. And it didn't hurt that he was playing against his old homeboys with Joy. And you could tell like there was a little bit extra in the 50-50 balls for him. There was a little bit extra in like chasing things down. His extra touch to try to beat a guy. He was just dialed in all day, and I think he ended the season very well. And I think he's going to be set up well to continue that as he gets back to UConn.
For real. So, John, the NPSL team then wrapped up their season on the road against Eris that following Wednesday night at the same time that we were packing the Nelly for the St. Croix City Derby. And Eris had been strangely okay this year, but they suffered some inconsistencies that led to a few forfeits, and that was always a problem, right? Another case of a team that just was not fully into it down the stretch. We weren't really sure which Eris would or wouldn't show up, but City had their own problems on the night. I think it's worth noting that the injury situation on this team had reached a point where, like, due to the team needing to prioritize talent at that USL 2 level to get our win, we had a very limited player pool to pick from. I think ended up traveling with 12 players to be exact.
That included 2 keepers.
Yeah. So, John, I will say that this was a game in which the old guard needed to show up, and they stepped up really admirably.
Yeah, for a group that was not necessarily always thought of and often looked past this year, the majority of the vets were along for the ride, really, for parts of the season, and youth was given a longer leash and a bigger role this in this transition year, which I understand why. So I know it was frustrating for a few of the guys that have been around here for quite a few years. I mean, and then you take the injuries into it too, like, that would, these final few matches would have been great for a guy like Charlie Adams to come into, Nick Hutton. They would have been able to help like add that level of veteran presence. And I do agree with that in that some matches they really could have been leaned on from an experience perspective. The old man tricks the I've been here before, I know what to do kind of thing, to grind out some of those closer games or keep us in others that they got out of hand. This was a game that, like you said, they just went and did their job and showed that in the NPSL North, you need guys like that. On the other side of the coin, Eris is Eris. And you also mentioned that too. They did show up, so at least that happened. But when they showed up with their proper group, they showed out this season. They swept Joy of the People in very convincing fashion, both on the road and at home. And when they faced teams at home, brought a far better squad than they did when they played on the road, especially against us. But it's still Eris, and all the Eris cards are always in the deck, from the forfeitures you mentioned, the switching fields, or not having a place to play. So it was good to see this group, the shorthanded group, with all those maybe doubts running through their minds, like on the bus to Wisconsin. What are we gonna get when we get there? To grind out another win in this fashion, I was super happy for them. It was a good capper of the season. So as far as standout performers go,
worth mentioning, it was a 4-2 victory.
Yeah,
in the end, so
a 4-2 victory in the end, and both Olivers getting on the score sheet. They didn't get the Oliver hat trick though. They didn't swear at opposing fans, and only one of them got a yellow card. So we're one yellow card shy of the complete double Oliver hat trick. But I think that they came in, and even if they weren't included in some of the team sheets collectively leading up to the end of the season, the moment they came in, when did we start actually getting results?
Yeah, I think it was, and I heard that after the game too, that, it really was what this team needed for guys like the Olivers to show up to practice and just start getting in people's faces.
Yeah. And exactly. Like having some backbone and being like, you win because you play for Minneapolis City. Like, you don't win because you play for yourself. Like, get it together. Like, we had to dust ourselves off with all the other shit we have going on in our lives to come here to make sure that this doesn't sink. And I think hats off to them. I appreciated it, to be honest with you. It was an interesting experiment to talk through in the beginning, and then we did it, and I think it worked out.
Yeah. And with that, John, the NPSL team wrapped their season. Results elsewhere meant that we finished a disappointing 4th in the division, but I'd say that, except for that Dakota Fusion loss, heading into the final stretch of games, we did what we needed to in order to salvage some measure of respect on the year. Unfortunately, the learning curve on the season's roster was such that we already had kind of paid the price in this division. I think besides one, inconsistencies that were brought on by the roster approach, there was also 2, some head scratcher moments on the sidelines when it came to substitutions and the like. So comparing this year to last year, and how can you not? I think the difference on the field was the lack of cohesion, was that players weren't on the same page with each other, or the game plan, because of the way that the roster was managed. And the teams that had their shit together, they made us pay, except Duluth.
Yeah. Now the season's over, I'm very glad that they didn't win. I can say that now. I'm gonna leave the majority of my nuggets for when we get back together again in a couple weeks here, to talk about full season recaps. I'm just happy that the team dug in, and you mentioned, the Fusion game. I'll even say the Met City game. Results at the end of the season in the second half. The guys dug in, grinded it out, and they can rest assured that they learned that they, as well as the team, the club, learned from the pitfalls in the first half of the season, and they did the club proud. I would say, like, they fought hard to come back, and that's what you're looking for. You don't want the team to pack it in, but I am happy to see it come to an end, so we can turn over a fresh page in the old John Bisworm soccer notebook that sits in my soccer bag and start the planning for 2023.
Yeah, fully agree. The season finale at home against Crosstown USL 2 squad St. Croix Legends was one that we also had circled on our calendar since the beginning. I don't think we could have predicted that the Crows would still be searching for their first win at this point, but regardless, it was a game that we were excited for from the start. Having lost one and drew one of both away at St. Croix in our weird 3-game series that we played over the course of the season, we knew from those results that this one was going to be winnable. Mm-hmm. But also we knew that we needed this win to save some face on the young USL 2 season.
Yeah, this match was needed, man. Did we put in a convincing stamp on things? Absolutely not. Did we pry that stink off of us finally? Yes, we did. You hate to see this group of, in my opinion, supremely talented players have to go through what they did all year, because they were, by and large, a group that should have done better. And we talked about all the reasons why they weren't performing. We don't have to get into that right now. But that is just how soccer goes sometimes. Mm-hmm. But we just needed one win. One game that changed the long list of L's into W's in the league table, and the group did just that. There were still bouts of interesting things that happened in this one. I don't think it was a fully clean effort. We left a lot on the table, but there were positives, much like with the NPSL group winning at home to close out the year versus Joy in their final match of the season. They put all the tools in the toolbox, filled up the old thermos, and they just went to work, and we're going to take nothing less than a win. It did take a 1 in 10,000 shot for Maiden O'Driscoll to go in for them to get the W, but they did it. And again, super happy to say this is over now, and we just are a few short weeks away from the season post-mortem and planning for how to right the ship in 2023. And I think it's pretty clear on what we got to do. So it'll just mean we got to put our heads together. Taking nothing away from St. Croix on the day, I just didn't think that they had it that day. And in the first two matchups, there was just those 4-minute stretches where City switched off and St. Croix was still on. And you saw that eliminated in this game, and everyone looked like they were fighting like hell to get that W. So
yep.
Hats off to those guys. We got to win. We can say we are a winner in USL 2.
Yeah. I will say this too, John, after weeks of you and I lamenting this formation 3-4-3 or whatever you want to call it, I think this is the game where it actually worked. Yep. Because you brought in two guys who usually played outside to be that second and third center back to join Jonah to create that trio. And in my mind, that is what made the difference. That stifled the very speedy St. Croix attack, whether it was coming from that guy with the curly blonde hair, or the
other guy with the curly blonde hair,
or Telvin Va, or the Darley Florville, right?
Yeah.
Those were their three danger men, and I think they were both all very speedy. And in different games, in other games, they could have easily turned our defense around and caused Martin problems. But in this game, it was very smart to play these two guys that I think are the standout performers at center back.
Yeah, and those two standout performers are Xavier Zenge and Matt Murakami. The former, Xavier, was injured. If you read or listen to the game recap from Kyle, he interviewed Xavier, and Xavier was like, "I'm playing in this game," and it again showed just his mental state, and like it also showed the mental state of the players. Like they were still all in and bought in to the club, even though things weren't going great for them. And Xavier is just a very good soccer player. Mm-hmm. Like no matter where you put him, he can get forward. He was getting forward as a center back in a 3-back system. So he wants to get forward. Even in the recap, he was saying, I had to stay switched on all the time because with our formation, if you don't do that, then there's always danger men around you. And he was switched on the whole game. And then Matt Murakami, I we'll talk about Matt Murakami in our end of the season wrap up, but his inclusion in the last 3 USL2 games that I saw that were at home, he was one of the standout performers in all 3 of those games. On top of being the standout performer in pretty much defensively in pretty much every game he was in, outside of the game in Duluth, where he was fouled twice in one play and gave up what ended up being the back-breaking goal because he was picking turf out of his teeth because he got fouled. But like Matt played great too, getting forward, but also both of them willing players that want to get forward and join the attack and close those gaps, but also able to get back defensively to stop those attacks like you mentioned. So yeah, those two guys, I think you can't, they're not 1A and 1B. They're both co number ones as far as who played the best on the day.
I like that. And thus ended the inaugural season for Minneapolis City in the USL2. I think it's one that is at the same time unforgettable and yet should be wiped from all short-term memory.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think it's great to always remember this as our first season and what the experience was like, but also you got to learn from it, but forget it, right? Because next year, I would say, having seen the field, John, that was always the big question mark going into the season. What does Peoria look like? What do those Canadian teams look like? I think with some more pointed squad building, more luck on the injury front, and this better understanding of these squads, we can compete in this league and work our way up the standings. I'm not saying we're going to show up next year and take the number one spot from Des Moines, but
Des Moines going pro next year. So.
We should be beating those Canadian teams. We should be taking a game or two from Peoria. We should be looking to sweep St. Croix. So I think that, given what we know now, I feel like we're in better shape for next year.
Yeah, I would say so too. And I think that I look at this and much like the NPSL, I'm going to hold my serious thoughts here. But two things to note. One, internally. I think internally, like you mentioned, some dedication to the squad building, some dedication to a cohesive formation that works well for the team, not trying to constantly counter and play differently against whoever we're facing, but just more focus on that. More focus on the talent we have and putting them in advantageous spots to perform. Done. Externally, I was very, very pleased with what I was reading and hearing about us, and speaking to I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but my soccer Rolodex runs pretty deep. I do know quite a few people across lower level soccer and even higher level soccer in the United States, and all of them said, "Man, what's happening, John?" And I would tell them, like, this is what we're trying to do, and it's our first year and we're learning from it. And they all said, and it was a consistent theme, was, you guys are going to be all right. You always figure it out. You just need time to figure it out. And I thought that was great to hear externally. I also thought it was great externally that when we underperformed in the box score, that other teams didn't pile onto us because of who we are. Mm-hmm. And I fully anticipated that in the beginning of the year. I mean, hand to the Bible. I thought that the teams who we historically have played against, other teams within the region, would have just picked up the fact that the losses kept piling up and totally shit on us. And they didn't. So I want to say a big thank you to those groups. We may not agree on everything, but thank you for understanding that we were doing something different and we had the guts to do it. And we also had to take the lumps with the decisions that we made, but you weren't piling on, and thank you for that. Yeah. Other than that, thank you to everyone who stuck with us, because it was a different season than we're used to. And you have my word, as well as everyone else in the club, that we've already started thinking about it, even though we got to pump the brakes on the planning and let this kind of wash over for a little bit. But the short-term memory is strong. We will forget about this one. And you're right. A couple different things we look at. Some bounces go our way next year. Guys stay healthy, and we're right in it again. And that's where we should be. So where we should be, Nate, is closing our show. Thank you for listening to this week's show. And thank you to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. European soccer is about to kick off. Unless you're Everton, you're about to kick out and just pack up shop. So if you're in the market for some supremely curated soccer art unique to your favorite team, printed on everything from mugs, t-shirts, head on over to footballstadiumprints.com and fill up your cart. Don't forget to use the code CROWS10. That's CROWS number 10 for 10% off of everything you purchase. And remember, All U.S. orders ship right from the States. There's no pesky international shipping charges. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so consider beefing up that tax-deductible donation ahead of next year's tax season through a charitable gift to a club that loves to give back. If you're interested in getting a hold of us, excuse me, we made it super simple. Hit up the club on Twitter at MPLSCitySC. Use the show handle at the People's Pitch or via email mcscpodcast@gmail.com. That is all for this week. That is all for the season. I am John. That was Nate. We're taking a few weeks off to go on vacation and do all sorts of shit. But remember, we'll be back in early August with our UPSL season wrap up. On top of that, we're also going to do our end of the season awards and our official recap of both seasons for USL and NPSL. And we cannot wait to do it. It's one of our favorite shows. So stay tuned, couple weeks off, but we'll be back at you. And then we'll just get into the off-season schedule where we maybe get people like Jimmy Conrad to come back on. Who knows? But until then, you got that.